Okay, now that you've watched the video on how insects can camouflage, I want you to think about what would be the habitat you would want your insect to live in. So, bugs can live just about anywhere. So, I'm going to show you some examples of places that your insect could live. And right now, you're going to make a decision about where you want your insect to live. So, your insect could live in the mountains. That's really similar to our climate, right? Grasslands. Maybe you want your insect to live in the polar region, so you'd have to really think about how the insect could survive there. Think about the color you would make it, right? How could it protect itself? You could choose the wetlands. You might choose a rainforest. You might choose a desert. If you wanted to, you could choose an urban setting. That would be like more like a city. That's okay. Or maybe you want your insect to live in the water. It could be a marine insect. So once you've decided where you want your insect to live, I want you to take your Show Mrs. Z your Discovery page, and I want you to draw a picture of the habitat you're going to use on this blank spot here, okay? So step one is draw a picture of the habitat you want your animal to live in or your insect, okay? So you might make sure you include trees, things like water, it depends on where it is. If it's underwater, you might include some sea life. So think about where you want your insect to live. And so what I want you to do right now is pause the video, go do your habitat, and then come back and I'll tell you what to do for the next step. Okay, so if you pause me and now you're back, here is the next step. The next step is you need to think about what your insect is gonna look like, okay? How will it survive? Now we've talked about how is it gonna camouflage to protect itself. Maybe your insect is also a predator, so it needs to camouflage in order to hunt other insects. You might think about what kind of body parts does it have? Is it long and shaped like a stick? Is it rounded and shaped like a beetle? Does it have 8 legs? Does it have 6 legs? I think it's 6 legs for an insect and 8 for a spider. But what many legs does it have? You might think about how big it is. Is it really little? Is it bigger? Where will your insect live? So add to your picture your insect, okay? So on your picture, I'd like you to draw a picture of your insect. All right, now you might want to kind of camouflage him in there so that I can't see him, but really do a nice job kind of drawing your picture in there of your insect, okay? Now I would recommend that you don't add too much color yet because the very last step is what I'm going to ask you to do and then you can add color to it, okay? So for right now, I want you to draw your insect somewhere in your habitat and think about all the parts that it would have to need to survive, okay? So do that and then come back. And you can just pause me here and then I'll start again when you get back. Okay, so now that you've drawn your insect and you've hidden him a little bit in your drawing, you're going to want to add some labels to your insect. Remember, we talked about how our nonfiction work is really important that we label things in a picture. So these are just some ideas. If your insect doesn't have these parts, then you can label other parts. I put the word stinger. Maybe your insect has a stinger. You might want to label its legs. Maybe your insect has antenna, and maybe your insect has wings. And maybe your insect has a bunch of other parts that I didn't even think of. So the reason I showed you this slide is if you'd like to pause it here and use any of these words to label, you can. Also, don't forget to use your arrow as to help you label things on your picture. Okay, so once you've done that labeling, you can come back, pause the video, and I will tell you how to finish it up. All right, now that you have your awesome insect in your really great environment and he's all labeled, now I want you to go ahead and color in your environment, color in your habitat, and make sure that you have your insect colored in so that he's somewhat hidden, right? I don't want him totally invisible. I should be able to see the outline of your insect, but make sure they're kind of hidden in the picture because that's how they would be able to survive in their habitat. Okay, so once you're finished with that, the very final thing you'll need to do is on the bottom of your Show Mrs. Zweiback Your Discovery, I want you to put in what you learned. So it says, I learned, write a sentence about what you learned from your research today. Might be something that you already knew that you just want to share. Might be that you want to talk about the environment of the habitat of your insect, Whatever you want to put that you learned today, that should go here in writing. Please make sure you're thinking about using a capital, that you're rereading your work when you're done, and that you're checking for punctuation and making sure your spelling is correct, just at least for the words that we know how to spell. Okay, so I hope you had fun today creating your insect and that I can't wait to see what you guys did. So if you finished it today, go ahead and take a picture of it and then you can post it. Just push the plus sign and add it. Hold it up really close so I can see it, take a picture of it, and then I can see the animal or insect you created. If you want to get really creative, you could actually name your insect somewhere on your sheet, make it up, or maybe it's the name of an insect you already know about. Okay, so have fun with that today and make sure you do a really nice job and take your time.